Welcome, everyone, to today's deep dive. And if you are an English learner who is tuning in to practice your listening skills, well, you are in exactly the right place.
You really are. We are so glad you are joining us today.
Yeah, our goal today is to give you a great space to practice your English, but we are also going to explore some really deep ideas. I mean, we are not just going to talk about basic vocabulary. We want to give you tools to talk about the real world.
Exactly. And the source material we are looking at today is perfectly suited for that. We are diving into a text from a series called Ethical Choices, and specifically a piece subtitled Rewriting the Contract with the World.
Right. And, to give you a little context, this text is rooted in the reality of the year 2026. So it is addressing a world where global interconnectedness is just, well, it is absolute.
It is unavoidable. You really cannot pretend anymore that your choices happen in a vacuum. Everything you do leaves a mark.
Which is actually the perfect hook for our deep dive today. We are going to look at these invisible threads that connect all of us. And for our English learners, we have a very specific mission. We are going to master 4 highly practical English phrases that describe these modern ethical concepts.
And we're going to take our time with this.
Yeah.
We want to slow down, really enunciate, and make sure we all understand exactly why our daily actions matter so much.
Okay, so let's unpack this first concept. And I want to give you, our listener, a mental picture to start with. So imagine you are walking through this beautiful, pristine forest, right?
It's lovely.
Yeah, it is. You are looking up at the trees, enjoying the fresh air, and you feel like you are leaving absolutely no trace. But there's a catch. You are wearing these thick, heavy, muddy boots.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right. So with every single step you take, you are leaving a deep, dark, muddy mark on the ground. You might never turn around and look behind you, but those tracks are there, and they permanently alter the path for whoever comes next.
That is a brilliant analogy. And that is exactly what the source material is arguing. We're all wearing those muddy boots right now.
We really are. Every time you buy a cheap cup of coffee or, every time you click on a video, you are leaving a track. But let's look at the actual vocabulary the text uses for this. It calls this our ethical footprint.
Yes. Ethical footprint. That is our first key phrase today. And let's break that down because it is a very important concept.
Now, when I hear the word footprint, my mind immediately just goes to a carbon footprint.
Right, which is a phrase we hear all the time.
Exactly. We use it to measure how much environmental pollution a person creates. But when we swap the word carbon for the word ethical, it completely changes the meaning, doesn't it?
It does. A carbon footprint is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. An ethical footprint is broader. It measures the total impact of all your choices on the environment, yes, but also on human society.
So it is the shadow of all our daily habits.
Precisely. It asks questions like, well, did this action harm another person? Or did this action reward a destructive system?
Okay, I think I understand the physical side of this. If I buy a plastic toy, someone had to extract oil, a factory had to mold it, and a truck had to burn fuel to bring it to my local store, that leaves a clear, muddy track.
A very clear physical footprint, yes.
But the source material pushes this further. It says our digital choices leave a track too. How does a simple like or a comment on social media leave a muddy footprint?
Well, it all comes down to how the modern attention economy works. When you are scrolling on your phone...
Which we all do way too much.
Right, we all do it. But when you stop to like a video, you probably think you are just giving a quick compliment to the creator.
Yeah, just being nice.
But what you are actually doing is feeding a massive computer algorithm. You are giving it a data point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So let's say you watch a video of a prank. And maybe the prank slightly embarrasses someone, but it is funny, so you click like.
Right.
The algorithm registers that this specific type of behavior, embarrassing someone, keeps human beings engaged.
So the machine learns that embarrassment equals attention.
Exactly. And the algorithm only has one goal. It wants to keep people on the app. So it instantly promotes that prank video to 10,000 more people.
Oh, man. I see the invisible thread now.
It gets bigger. Tomorrow, 50 other creators see how successful that video was, so they film their own embarrassing prank videos. By next week, it is a global trend.
And your one single, was the fuel for that fire.
Yes. You rewarded a behavior that subtly degrades human dignity, and you help push it into the mainstream. That is your ethical footprint in the digital world.
That really reframes how I look at my phone. I mean, every click is a step in those muddy boots.
It is a tiny choice, but it holds immense ethical weight because of the systems it powers.
But understanding that muddy footprint, it creates a whole new problem for us. Because if everything we do leaves a mark, How do we make sure our mark isn't hurting anyone?
Well, this is where the text introduces a radical new definition for a word we already know. The word is sustainability.
Right, sustainability. Usually when I hear that, I just think about recycling plastic bottles or using solar power.
Most people do. But the source refines sustainability as the practice of integrity.
The practice of integrity, that is an interesting combination of words.
It is. The text argues that true sustainability means making sure your lifestyle does not cost someone else their dignity.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here just to clarify this for our listeners.
Please do.
Because I get the ideal, I really do. But let's look at real life. Let's say I go to the store and I buy the cheapest shirt on the rack.
Right.
I am not trying to rob anyone of their dignity. I am just trying to survive on a tight budget. I need to save money to pay my rent. So am I lacking integrity just because I cannot afford a super expensive, locally made, organic cotton shirt?
That is such a fair question. And it is a tension that the text actually anticipates.
Oh, it does?
Yes, because acting with integrity is not about demanding absolute perfection,
No.
and it certainly isn't about punishing people for their financial limits.
Okay, that is a relief.
Which brings us to our second key phrase for our English learners, to act with integrity.
To act with integrity.
To act with integrity means to live according to your moral principles, to the best of your ability, using the resources you actually have.
So it is more about awareness than perfection.
Precisely. If you have to buy the cheaper shirt to pay your rent, acting with integrity means you at least acknowledge the invisible threads connected to that shirt.
You do not just look away from the reality of the system.
Exactly. You ask yourself, why is this shirt so cheap?
Right, because it isn't magic.
No, it is not. The company didn't magically make cotton cost less. The shirt is cheap because the true cost of making it was passed on to someone else.
Ah, I see. It is subsidized by the factory worker who is not making a living wage.
Yes. Or it is subsidized by the river that was polluted by the cheap chemical dyes used to color the fabric.
What's fascinating here is how the source completely connects environmentalism to human morality.
It shows that environmental destruction and human exploitation are actually the exact same problem.
If a system requires human suffering to produce a cheap product, then that system is morally unsustainable.
Which is why sustainability requires the courage to live according to your values, even when it is very inconvenient.
And it is inconvenient, right? I mean, slowing down, asking questions before you spend your money, that takes time.
It takes a lot of time. But that brings us to the next big shift described in the text. When you start paying attention to your ethical footprint, your very identity in society shifts.
And the source material calls this shift conscious citizenship. It says we have to evolve from being a mere user to becoming a guardian.
From a user to a guardian. So what does this all mean? For our listeners, let me offer another analogy. Think of the difference between renting a car from an airport and owning your own car.
Oh, that is a great comparison.
Right. When you rent a car, you are just a user. You drive it really hard. Maybe you spill coffee on the floor mat. You hit the speed bumps too fast.
You don't really care because you are handing the keys back in 2 days.
Exactly. You expect someone else to clean up your mess. But when you are a guardian, it is like owning a car that you plan to drive for the next 20 years. You avoid the potholes. You wipe up the spilled coffee right away.
Yeah, because you deeply care for the machine. You are not just extracting value, you are taking responsibility.
And that homeowner or car owner mentality leads us directly to our third vocabulary phrase, conscious consumerism.
Conscious consumerism, that is a great phrase for our learners to practice.
It is the practice of intentionally buying products that are made ethically and sustainably. It is the economic engine of a guardian.
But let's break down how this actually works. Why does buying a different product actually change anything?
Because every time you spend $1, you're basically casting a vote for the type of future you want.
So if I buy my vegetables from a local farmer instead of a giant online delivery website, what am I voting for?
You are voting for your local community, you are paying a neighbor's salary, and you are ensuring that the local farm can stay in business tomorrow.
Wow, okay.
But the text points out that conscious consumerism isn't just about how you spend your money. It's also about how you spend your data.
Now this is interesting. The text talks about choosing privacy over convenience to vote for a human-centric future.
Yes, a human-centric future.
How does adjusting the privacy settings on my phone turn me into a guardian?
Well, think of your personal data as a highly valuable currency.
Yeah.
Your location, your shopping history, even the time you wake up in the morning.
It is all data.
Right. And when you download a free app, The company is not giving you a gift. You are paying for that app with your data.
You are acting as a user. You are trading your personal information for a quick convenience.
And those companies feed that data into the algorithms we talked about earlier. They use it to predict your behavior and sell you more things.
So how do we stop that?
By actively choosing privacy. When you turn off tracking in your settings, you are denying the machine its free fuel.
You are setting a boundary.
Exactly. You're telling the tech industry that human beings are not just raw material to be mined for profit. That is what a guardian does.
It really is a deeply empowering way to look at daily life. Small choices like buying local tomatoes or turning off app tracking are actually powerful acts of guardianship.
The invisible threads are pulled by our everyday actions. But, the source introduces one final tool that shapes reality, and it is completely free.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially for you, our listener, who is actively learning English right now.
Absolutely. Because this final tool is language itself.
The text argues that the words we choose to learn and use aren't just neutral tools for communicating, they are ethical decisions.
The source actually says that how we talk about the world, whether we use violence or empathy, actually shapes the world.
Let's really look at the mechanics of this because, for a language learner, saying words out loud changing reality, it sounds almost like magic.
It does sound a bit magical, but it is actually very practical.
How does using empathetic language instead of aggressive language leave an ethical footprint?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, language is the architecture of our culture. The words we use define what society is willing to tolerate.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's look at the corporate business world. Yeah. For a long time, the language used in business has been very mechanical.
Like referring to employees as human capital?
Yes. Human capital or just resources.
It makes people sound like a pile of coal or a piece of machinery.
Exactly. And when leadership constantly uses the phrase human capital, it subtly shifts their mindset. It removes empathy.
So it makes it psychologically much easier to fire 1,000 people to save money.
Because you aren't firing people, you are just restructuring resources.
Wow. The language creates distance.
But if a culture demands that we use empathetic language, if we insist on calling them people or community members or colleagues, the mindset has to shift.
It becomes much harder to treat a colleague with casual cruelty.
Yes. Empathy in our language is the very first step toward our final practical phrase for today. Systemic change.
Systemic change. Change that affects the entire structure of a system.
It isn't just a small adjustment. It is a complete transformation of how an organization or a society operates.
And the text is saying that this massive structural change begins with the words we choose to speak every day.
It has to. When enough guardians choose empathy in their daily language, the culture begins to shift.
And when the culture shifts, consumer demands change.
Right. We start practicing conscious consumerism. We demand products made with integrity.
And finally, the massive systems, the corporations and governments, are forced to change their structures to meet this new cultural standard.
The language changes the culture changes the market, and the market changes the system.
That is an incredible progression, and it perfectly explains the title of our source material, Rewriting the Contract with the World.
Because a contract is made of words. Every time we choose empathy, we are literally writing new terms and conditions for how we live together.
Well, this has been an incredibly rich deep dive. Let's gently recap the journey we have been on for our listener today.
I think that is a great idea.
We started by looking at the muddy boots we all wear. We call this our ethical footprint. It is the impact of our choices on the environment and society.
Yes. We learned that even a simple like on a social media video leaves a muddy digital track that trains global algorithms.
Second, we talked about redefining sustainability. We learned what it means to act with integrity.
Which means living according to your moral principles and making sure your lifestyle doesn't cost someone else their dignity.
Third, we discussed evolving from a user to a guardian. We explored conscious consumerism.
Buying products made ethically and realizing that every dollar is a vote for the kind of economy you want to exist tomorrow.
And finally, we uncovered the power of language. We saw how choosing empathy in our conversations is the foundation for true systemic change.
The change that alters the entire structure of our world.
And as an English learner, you are in such a unique position right now.
You really are. You are not just memorizing vocabulary to pass a test. You're actively gaining tools to practice conscious citizenship.
Every new word you master is a new way to understand these invisible threads. You are learning the language of a guardian.
That is a beautiful way to put it. You are participating in a global conversation.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to ponder on your own.
Something to mull over as you go about your day.
Exactly. We know that every click is a footprint. We know every dollar is a vote for the future. And we know that every word we speak builds the boundaries of our reality. So keeping all of that in mind, what kind of world are you voting for with your very next conversation?